Hi, I'm Rabbi Zoot, and welcome back to the channel. Last week we started our conversation about what does it mean to do the hard work of engaging with our Judaism and engaging with our Jewish tradition. This is a conversation that has lots of different elements and lots of different components. And it can be challenging to have this conversation because it does require that something be asked of someone. It's not as simple as the transactional relationship that we normally know. Right? Martin Buber, one of our theologians, has this concept of an I-it relationship. This is what happens when you walk into the convenience store and you buy a Snickers bar and you talk to the person behind the counter as if they are the person selling you your Snickers bar and nothing else, and then you walk away and it's over. But there's also the I-thou relationship. This is the deeper relationship. This is the deeper meaning behind a relationship. This is the one where you see that essence of someone, that deeper purpose, and you appreciate them with an entirely different light. We're going to start to try and transition our relationship with Judaism away from that consumerism of I-it and toward that investment of I-thou. And one of the ways we can do that is by thinking about ritual. Right now I'm reading a book called The New American Judaism by Jack Wertheimer. And it's a really interesting read. But one of the things he talks about in the early chapters is that he explores the idea of what does it mean to invest in ritual. He makes the claim that non-Orthodox Jews, that's Reform, conservative, unaffiliated, that large category of people who are non-Orthodox, those Jews are less likely to feel comfortable with rituals. And part of that is because they're not practiced at it. I'll give you an example. When we go to religious services, who are the people who are most comfortable in the room? You might think it's the rabbis, although I'll tell you a sneaky secret, it's quite a difficult thing on a bima or on from the pulpit to try and balance leading prayer and experiencing prayer. So we might not be the leading candidates for the most comfortable in prayer. No, instead, during services, the people who are most comfortable are the people who come every week. They're the people who know the practice, they know the ritual, they know the routine of prayer, and they're able to find their own connection to it and their own relationship to it because it's a well-trodden path. They've been down that road before. They know what it looks like. Who are the people who are least comfortable with prayer? Those are the people who come once, maybe twice a year, who don't know our prayer schedule, who don't know the regularity with which we observe some of these traditions. And therefore, everything seems foreign all the time. It's constantly almost boring because you don't know what to expect. You're seeing these languages that just don't make any sense, and as a result, you sit there a passive spectator rather than an active engager. Now, that's an uncomfortable form of Judaism. I would be uncomfortable with that. I would feel that that's no fun. So how do we change the relationship away from ritual that feels oppressive because our lack of comfort with it, as opposed to a form of Judaism that encourages us to buy in and to feel that sense of connection? Now, these are not questions that our tradition is uncomfortable answering because we've been doing it for so long. There is a ritual calendar for a reason. Why do we build a sukkah every year? It's because if we left building a sukkah to when we feel like it, we'd either build it too often or not often enough. We wouldn't be able to connect with the meaning of the thing because too often would mean it would fade into the background of our lives, and not often enough would mean we'd never have any relationship with this thing in the first place. Why do we have a ritual of prayer that happens either every day or every week, depending on which prayers we're saying? Because our Jewish tradition knows that we as human beings need a Shabbat, need a chance to step back and find that sense of peace, that sense of calm. And we also know that setting an intention every day and processing the day we just had is one of the most beautiful ways of us engaging with the world around us. We have a ritual calendar that goes round and around, giving us new opportunities each time to find something within ourselves that is most beautiful and most meaningful. Now, I just said we should do more stuff. Of course I would say that. I'm a rabbi. I sell the doing more stuff. But what I'm also saying is, when we ask of our Judaism to be meaningful, without the investment, without doing the work of figuring out why these things happen at a level that they do, we're asking a lot of a tradition that has a whole roadmap paved out for us, but that we're not letting do its job. You don't take antibiotics once for one day when you have a prescription for a certain length and be surprised that it's not helping you get healthy. We don't start a workout routine and go to the gym once and wonder why we haven't lost 50 pounds. There's habit that goes into these things. There's a sense of flow that we acquire over time because we build relationship and build comfort getting into those routines. So what's the action item? What's the point of this conversation? There are so many things we each can do to find that little piece that makes our lives better and makes our connection to Judaism and to religion more meaningful. And so I encourage you to go find what is that thing that you want to try this week or this year or this month or anything, any small quantity of time that you want to invest in order to try and make your connection to something bigger than yourself more meaningful. It could be lighting candles on Shabbat. Lighting candles on Shabbat costs you maybe 3 minutes and costs you a candle. But that little marking of time, that little space carved out, can have a huge impact on the way we experience our lives. Maybe it's finding a time to guide your meditation or your spiritual mindfulness practice, specifically as it relates to Judaism. Not the random yoga that happens in gyms all across the country, but very specifically, what does it mean to introduce the Shema? One prayer, 2 sentences into your meditation practice so that you bind what you're already trying to do to make your life better with the tradition that we know can work if only we go and engage with it. This is what I meant last week when I said sometimes this can be hard work and sometimes this can be uncomfortable. It's hard to admit that our investment in Judaism hasn't necessarily set us up for success. Jack Wertheimer has a point in his book when he says that if we don't build the habits and the skills for getting comfortable with our traditions, then we're asking our traditions to work without giving them the oxygen to breathe. And so I encourage all of us to do a little bit more to find how we can let our Judaism be meaningful to us. Now, by the way, it's worth noting, I'm included in this. Every Jew, every person of faith can find a little bit of a different way to find it meaningful to do these things. There's no judgment, there's no condescension in any of this, right? We have the opportunity to engage in the work just a little differently. I'll share with you one of the things that I work on is I try and bless my food when I eat. Eating is something that I do almost by default. It's not something I do consciously or thoughtfully nearly enough. And so what does it mean for me to sit down at a table and say, I'm going to use the language of our tradition to specifically thank God for the food that's in front of me, and to specifically be thoughtful about what am I putting in my body and what am I grateful to have? By calling me to that higher level of thoughtfulness and by asking me to engage in a deeper level like that, I'm allowing Judaism to do its work. I'm allowing Judaism to be an antidote to one of the things I'm working on in my life. And as a result, not only do I better myself, but I help better my faith, my tradition, my connection. All of these are valuable, important components of having a meaningful connection to Judaism and tradition in general. And so as I'm on this journey, I wanted to share a little bit of what I'm doing and encourage you to join me. What are those things that you might be able to do to just give yourself that little bit of bump, that little bit of extra? If you have something in mind that you're thinking, wow, I'd really love to engage with this, comment below so that we can start this conversation and engage together on what are some of the ways that we can help each other find that deeper meaning. If you find these videos valuable, give us a like, give us a follow, and most importantly, if you find something valuable in this, pass it on to a friend. Pass it on to a family member who you think might get value out of the conversation we're having. Thank you so much, and I look forward to continuing the conversation again next week.